Hi, my name is Morgan, and I'm the owner of the Sena II, a commercial fishing boat that's been operating in the Gulf of Alaska and off of British Columbian waters for many, many years. Join me as I try to bring her back while exploring the North Pacific coast of Canada with my family from my base in the Salish. Okay, folks, so today I'm going to do a video about radar and about small craft and how hard they are to see when you're using radar. Now, a lot of the larger boats are tuned for avoiding boats of their size and boats that are larger, but do try to look at various obstacles, right? But as you know, during the night, let's say, or during poor visibility when it's, for example, raining or misty or worse, foggy, the larger boats work very much on the basis of AIS and on radar, and a great many boats use radar only. So today I'm going to look at the anchorage around me where I am and what that looks like in the real world and what it looks like with radar. All right, here we go. Okay, so Transport Canada puts out regular ship safety bulletins, and 1998 is the latest ship safety bulletin that addresses radar. So the subject is radar reflectors on small vessels, fittings, and limitations. And as Transport Canada says, in the past few years, several small vessels operating in restricted visibility or heavy weather have been run down or swamped by larger vessels due to a lack of detection. Subsequent investigations have revealed that many of these vessels did not have a properly fitted radar reflector or were not using one to increase their chances of being detected. Small vessels generally make poor radar targets because they are mainly constructed of non-metallic materials and because they present a low profile due to their small amount of superstructure. Even in good visibility, they're difficult to see from the bridge of a larger vessel, since they are so low down on the horizon that they do not show against the sky. In rough weather, they're often screened by spray or may not be seen when in the trough of a swell when there are waves. At night, their navigation lights can be concealed because of shore lights in the background. In restricted visibility, where radar and the exchange of sound signals are the only means of detection, it is important that vessels use a properly fitted radar reflector to indicate their presence to other vessels in the vicinity. And here are the recommendations for Canada for the surface areas and so forth. I recommend people with small craft have a look at these recommendations. Radar reflectors, and I'm just going to go to my trusty reference for material here. This is from Western Marine in Vancouver, which is a wholesaler. So this isn't a dealer, and it's really handy to search their guide to see what exists. And look, there's a few pages of this. This is what radar reflectors can look like, or the ones that are commonly used in British Columbia. We have some posts, and then we have some shapes, and all of them, all radar reflectors tend to have in common always having faces that reflect all directions, or as many directions as possible, so that radar beams that hit the reflector echo back from a straight flat surface. And this is what radar reflectors look like, and typically you mount them on your backstay or at the highest point possible on your vessel. Looking at the boat to our bow, let's see, here it is. This one, which isn't in profile, doesn't seem to have any radar reflection equipment either. It seems to be fiberglass. Okay. Now, the boat over here has left now, so I can't look at this one. But looking at this guy over here on the side, the blue boat, it also doesn't have an immediately discernible radar reflector on the back dish or along the mast, so it's hard to tell. But it doesn't seem to have a radar reflector either. Maybe that's why they're so hard to see. And now, of course, in an anchorage in good visibility, at night we have their anchor lights, hopefully, and in the day, then we can just see them. But it's interesting that that boats are less visible than they think they are, especially if they don't have radar reflectors. Now, that said, I don't have a boat easily accessible here to look at that does have a radar reflector. So I'm going to have to do without. Okay, let's take a look at what the inlet looks like. So currently, the Sena II is inside the very head of Burrard Inlet in Port Moody, more or less where the home icon is here. And so what we can see on the radar is from this point, looking in this direction here, because at the time the boat is facing southeast, more or less. You'll notice there's lots of piles and obstructions here in the image, which is kind of interesting because if you look on the sonar image, you'll see them. And you'll notice that we're seeing these pilings, like for example in the mud right here. And over here, we are seeing these on the satellite, on the radar image. Without the overlays, this is what this looks like. Here we are. We're in about 15 feet of water. 15 feet of water is roughly 4 meters. And inside of an anchoring area defined by 4 buoys, which is maintained by the Port Moody municipality. Okay, sailboats and small boats. Let's have a look here. I've got this set up on my 0.125 nautical mile per ring, quarter mile radar setting like this. This is up close. And here's have a look at what this means. Over here, there's one sailboat right there. Ooh, we can't really see it. Let's see if I can go outside for this. So I'm gonna head outside to see what the equivalent to this is in the real world, outside of radar, So here we have one sailboat over there. Where is that? There, one on the left. One 40-foot pleasure craft powerboat on the middle with someone messing with the anchor. They must be moving. And over here we have this boat here looking at its stern. And over here we have, just to the right, we have one sailboat there, like this. And going back. Looking on the radar. This is on the digital radar. Here's what we get. One on the left is the blue sailboat. The one in the middle here is the powerboat with someone on the foredeck. This here is the motorboat who we see on at their stern. And over here is the sailboat to my starboard. They don't look very big. And if we zoom out a little bit to larger range, what happens? We still do see them. They're definitely there in the inlet. And we increase the range again and we should see the whole inlet now. There you go, all the edges of where we are. We're zooming out further. Yeah, we don't see much more. There we go. And that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like on the radar when a big fish boat comes by and is looking to see what to avoid in the ocean. We do try. Okay, so now let's look in detail at these boats. Like, why are their images so small? Is it just because they're, small boats with small radar reflectors, and that's all you can expect? Or is it maybe because they don't have a radar reflector? Let's have a look. Okay, so here we're going to look at the nearest one on my starboard side, right here with an aluminum mast. And we're just going to like have a look. I don't see a radar reflector on the stern, on the backstay. This is where they're typically found, but it is in profile. It's fiberglass, which isn't great for reflection. It does have its own. It does have a radar dish, but I don't see a radar reflector on this boat. Maybe it's a metal boat. It looks like it's a fiberglass boat. Okay, so earlier in the video I mentioned AIS, and what is AIS? So AIS is a radio-based positioning beacon, which many of the boats around the world have. It's required on larger vessels, and what it is it's a system that uses VHF to send out information about the position of a vessel so that other vessels that are able to receive that information are able to see it. Here, I'll show you mine. This is my AI system here. It's quite straightforward, and I can go back to the menu here, and you can see. So, for example, here I tell people that I'm at anchor, and I'm not going somewhere. And also, you can see if there's any messages here, for example. And you can transmit and receive messages and have a look. There's also guard boxes available to tell you, to alarm you if someone gets within a certain distance of you. These are my alarms. So basically anything within 20 nautical miles, I get notified, which is of course a little much where we are. It also looks at if you had a target and you lost it within 5 nautical miles, and then you get the alarms, and I can see, I think this is the list. These are all the alarms for the guards telling me about various things, and I can go look at those. So anyways, that's AIS. And what does it do? Oops, what does it do? Well, AIS transmits position information. Now, I don't have my navigation system up right now, but I do have access to marine traffic, and you can see on marine traffic here, which is it's a site that I actually use to monitor Sena II when I'm not on her. You can see all of these boats right here. So this is just a Google Earth map. But here's what's kind of interesting. You can pick a boat, for example, Sena II going at 0 knots. Position received 1 minute ago. There's a freighter here at anchor. There's another freighter here at anchor. Different kinds. If you look at the map, you can see there's this vessel moving here. Coastal Mackenzie. Now, this gives you not that much information, but with AIS, you can also do something interesting, which you can see the historical information, I think. It's underway, and you can look at the past tracks, and this is what this vessel's been doing, which gives you an idea of where it's going. This isn't, as you can tell, this is not something that's useful for navigation. And there's Sena. And if you look at Sena, and I look at its past tracks, and let's see, you'll see that there you go. These are the past tracks of the boat around, more or less around an anchor circle, and so forth. Anyways, that's what AIS does. AIS is one of the tools that you use, and I really recommend to every boater out there to have an AIS transmitter that just shows your position. Really helpful. On nav systems, you get things like predicted path if they keep in a straight line. So you get something like whenever predicted paths cross, There's alerts for vessels that something is coming, and it puts you at risk. This is something that people don't use enough. So if you have a small radar profile, and if you don't have AIS, and if it's foggy or dark or gray, and if not everything is working, then you're at a higher risk of collision. And then if you don't have those things, and if you do have AIS, if you have a large radar profile thanks to a reflector, and let's say your nav lights are on, and then it really helps. And of course in the fog if you're using sound signals. Anyways, that's AIS for you, and it's how it helps in for safety.